So we now have this. It's left quite a matte kind of surface, but that's okay. We're going to have to rework all that. But I would say, yeah, not bad at all actually. Wish I could have got it as good as that on the bottom without that plastic layer leading to a kind of snake skin effect. Yeah, there's going to have to be a little bit of reworking there, but that's okay. So I've done the first level rework, which is basically getting all that smooth. There'll obviously have to be at least 2 more before you can say it's a kind of usable item. There's all kinds of ridges and things down here, for example, and it obviously needs trimming across the top edge to get the shape quite right. But one thing I'm very pleased with actually is the finish, which is natively off the back of the PVC foam board. And if only I'd managed to not do the thing with leaving the plastic film on the PVC foam board. If only, then the quality of the surface down here would be about 100 times better than it actually is. But c'est la vie, you live and learn. So I would say that I'm now, with my shaped piece, which didn't previously exist at all, remember, it is from nothing to this, is probably about 60% done, I would say, maybe a bit more. So now, having got the thing into shape, do a bit more shaping with this 40 grit, but shortly I'm going to have to get it going with something smoother. Right, enough of the 40. Now some 80, which is still blinking rough compared to some. Look at this, lovely day for it. Anyway, overnight I concluded that for these sections here, where I was going to use these pieces here, which now proved to be too small because I've decided to step the whole thing backwards, and this part here has a strong taper on it, so I'll step it backwards and suddenly this section needs to be deeper. So this particular piece is no use for that. But rather than, as I was thinking of doing, cutting a larger piece of fiberglass out of some other piece that I've got laying around, I might as well just extend the fiberglass to the side, very much as I did previously with this section that was missing. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to stick some more of my PVC foam board without the plastic sheet on onto the front of this section here. I'm just going to extend outwards both ends, and I'll cut the shape probably, well, definitely the shape will be fine-tuned a bit later on. So first I'm going to trim off the hairy bits and bits that aren't really in shape. Okay, so I now need to fix some of the PVC foam board onto the front. So here is my, what I've been calling a horn, which needs to go on kind of there, and as you see, when cut back there's definitely a big gap there. So what I'm going to do is fix this piece on here, laminate it onto it, and then get the shape after. Before I start laying up onto this, because it's quite thick, So I'm going to feather the edge with the flap disc. Right, I have sprayed my spray grease on there. Okay, so here's my new section, and I'm just going to lay fiberglass all the way up here. Right, so I've laminated on my extra bits at the end and at the other end. Had quite a lot of trouble with the resin setting ages before it was meant to. I think that is probably because of the temperature, but a bit confusing because even when I reduced the catalyst concentration from 2% to 1%, it still seemed to go off extra fast, so not really sure what that was all about. But anyway, one thing at a time. So at least I've done these sections, so now I need to set about releasing them. Take my clamps off. There we go. Take the screws out. Right, let's see. Yay! You know what? I'm really quite pleased with that. So that was cleaned with WD-40 and had a layer of spray grease applied to it. And it has pulled off straight away. In fact, I wonder whether that would have even mattered if I hadn't bothered putting any spray grease on it. It came off really easily. So this side will be insane. Yep. So here we have the extension pieces, what I have been calling the horns, which would have been like that, but I decided to make them from brand new fiberglass. My objective is simply to follow the line here, and although it tends to step out slightly here, in actual fact there's a piece of chassis rail just running across. So I'm going to have a, you'll see, there'll be a step in and then it will join up. So I've been doing some trimming and trying to work out what's the maximum length this horn can be at each end, and that's involved finding the centre line and measuring it on the back of the car, where I've also marked a centre line. And here we are, so I need to find out where is 26 inches, and it's right there, somewhat to my surprise, at that end, right on it. So the other end, that was done by eye. 26 at this end. There seems to be a lot more spare at this end. I've got my centre line aligned. Yeah, it looks like it can only really go up to about here. So there we are. So this is my back panel with the horns. I can see this is going to need slimming down a lot, and I'm going to form one continuous piece right across the back of the car here. First fit in this configuration anyway. And yes, quite a lot needs taking off down here, which is exactly what I expected. Yeah, having moulded it for a few moments there, I think I need a bend. This doesn't need to be as straight as I actually have it, so I'm going to mark where the back panel goes around the corner here, and it's just here. Same at the other end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to partially cut this. I'm going to bend it backwards, because of course you can't really bend fiberglass, and I'm going to aim to bring this section towards the back of the car, whilst leaving this end of it, roughly where it is. Yeah, we're almost there, I think. I just need to reduce the shelf effect, I think. And then I can cut some pieces off here and here. That's looking quite good there now. And this is looking quite good here. I just need to trim some more off of the original Gilbern Mk2 behind wheel arch moulding. There it is. Draw a line there. Yeah, two quite big bits. Now if I put my new piece back in, I think you can now see the idea. Get a view of it. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, that's taken about a centimetre off. I reckon that's pretty good. So I've decided to slim these arches down a bit, and to some extent that's already happened because I've just cut this just here. Yeah, moving that in, and I can see that some adjustments on this are going to be necessary, but just imagine for a minute that is actually moulded in. What does it look like? Well, it's definitely an improvement. My next task with this rear valance situation is to basically be able to remove it so that it can be joined together with the newly fabricated valance and the quarters and everything else, so it can be fiberglass together from the inside. But my slight concern is this joint here. Now I've smothered that in hot glue in order to hold it together temporarily, and hopefully that will indeed be strong enough. Now luckily there is actually not very many screws holding the whole thing onto the back of the car. I might as well take these tabs completely off, to be honest. Oh, there we go. And here we have it. So, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the complete valence rear wheel arch section in one piece. Right, after a bit more trimming, feathering, fine adjustments of the glass fibre where it overlaps especially, I'm now doing the joining up bits. Now here I'm joining up between what I keep calling the original Gilbern behind wheel arch sections and the new valence piece which I created. Right, so my glass fibre seems to have gone off. Very slightly sticky to the touch, but I think that's likely to persist for quite a while. But anyway, I can remove the screws from underneath and move to the next stage. Right, so I'm going to use some fibre filler in the big divots before going over the top with some matting. Doing this really quickly in case the thick fibre filler that I put on goes off before I can put this on. Right, after quite a bit of effort, here we have the underside is now laminated together. Of course the next task will be to make it look presentable, but at least the gross kind of holes, most of them, are filled in. Some work needing to be done here and over there, but yeah, structurally I think we can say it's together. Right, trying to get some kind of fine surface finish on this thing. Yeah. Now where this is completely unlike baking a cake or icing a cake is you don't do this with a cake, and it's rubbing down with a board like this on filler is famous for putting pretty much taking the same amount off as you put on in the first place. After a great deal of rubbing and sanding and filling and work, it now looks like this. I think there's this might be the fourth or fifth go of fine surface filling, which has now created a piece like this, which clearly isn't finished because of course it needs to be blended in to the back of the car. So That's the new central valence section, made from scratch. These are the original 50-odd-year-old Gilbern behind wheel arch sections, and the actual wheel arches themselves. And all of that needs to go on to the car itself. Right, so of course I didn't have enough primer, but nevertheless enough to give an impression. Now of course this needs to be permanently joined on, and there's a little bit of fettling on that join needed, but I think you can get a pretty good idea of how it's going to be. As I get closer to completing the back end, I've decided to bring out of hibernation the original bumpers from the back and indeed the front, and they're in a somewhat rough state. This is the upside, this is the underneath. Turn it over. Slightly rough, but not disastrously so. Half close your eyes, so you can even imagine what the finished article is going to look like. Yeah. Well, could I leave the video today without a view of the car with its wheels on? I did think about it, but here it is. And perhaps more usefully, here is a kind of wheel's eye view of the setup. Very good. In fact, I might let the thing down on its wheels, on the ground. Will be the first time that's happened for a while. And here it is. The car's on the ground. First time for months. And yeah, this is what the back end looks like. Just imagine how it used to be, where it basically stopped just here, and you could see the spare wheel well hanging down. It's not like that anymore. And the wheel arches look just right. Very pleased indeed. Okay then, since you asked, here's a bit of a wider view of the car as it is now. Did I tell you about the new headlamps and indicators? Perhaps not. Yeah. It's looking pretty good, isn't it? If I do say it myself. Two rear lights now, albeit not fitted on, just dangling in place. Fuel tank, not quite finished, but very nearly. Boot floor, similarly. With all that real estate on the back, I'm wondering about how to do real fog lamps and reversing lights. Yeah, I've got some work to do on the windscreen wipers as well. Will I end up using that setup or something more like the original? Only time will tell.